So my first time to Mumbai, my first time to India. I could pretend it's my birthday like Tony did, but it's not. But please still be gentle with me. Really interesting few days. Love the city, love the food, and visited a number of printers. Hands up, anybody in this room that has less than 4 people on a printing machine? 1, 2, 3. There's hope. There's hope. Good. Okay. I've seen printers with new machines. I've seen Heidelbergs. I've seen Kamuis. I've seen Ryobis. I've seen printers with 20-year-old machines. Everybody tells me you need 4 people on a machine. Everybody tells me it takes 30 minutes to make ready. It doesn't, and it doesn't take 4 people to run a machine. Okay, I'm going to give you some facts that are very different. I'm sure you know these, but the challenges you face, the challenges we face are, in many cases exactly the same. There are clearly some differences. There are some cultural differences. The level of absenteeism I've been told about is something I can't comprehend, but it's fact, it's a cultural difference. The wage cost is clearly very different. A customer service person in the UK?
Could you speak up a little? The people at the back can't hear.
Certainly, yes, of course. A customer service person in the UK, $40,000 per year. A print machine minder, $55,000 per year. Now you can see why we can't afford 4 people to run a machine. But everywhere I go, and I've been to China, I've been to the US, many places in Europe, Australia, and of course the UK, always efficiency can be improved. There are 3 M's, I don't know if you've seen this before, that absolutely have to be right. First one is our man, our people, our resource. They have to be able to run the machine at what you've bought it for. We buy a new machine, and if they tell me it will make ready in a certain time, and it will run at 18,000 sheets per hour, those engineers and those demonstrators do not leave my building until it's running at that speed. And we do that with our printing machines, we do that with our folding machines, our stitching machines, our digital printing presses. If I'm being sold a machine that's capable of that level of production, that's what I'm paying for, that's what I'm going to get. But your people have to be capable of running it at that speed. Machinery we've talked about, and the other thing is your materials. Your materials have to be capable of operating at the level. Our presses run at 18,000 sheets per hour, every day, every job, no matter what the material from the first sheet. If you buy cheap paper, you will not be able to do it. If you buy cheap inks, you won't be able to do it. One challenge you have got here that I've seen is the presentation of paper. I've been quite shocked. I went to one company where it was bulk packed on pallets, ready to go into a machine, but only one I've seen that. The way it's presented is a challenge for the paper merchants that you've got to drive as a printing community, you've got to drive that change to get it presented to you better. Okay, a little bit about ESP Colour, just to lay the foundation of what we're about. I've done it in US dollars, $17 million turnover for our litho business, 85 people, 30,000 square foot premises, 3 people in pre-press, and on average we produce 3,500 plates per week. Okay, you can do the maths hopefully. I know it's late, but stay with me. That's on one CTP device that does 62 plates per hour. We've got 2 automated B1 presses. One is 3 years old, one's 4 years old. Each one of those machines, in fact, it's come down a little bit, but in 2017, averaged 62 million impressions per machine. We don't produce long-run work. And running those 2 machines, we have 3 people. Now, I don't mean 3 per machine. I mean 1 printer on each machine and one, as you know, 1 baller working between the 2 to make them work. Every day, 5 days a week, 52 weeks of the year. So, some numbers on that. We make ready 22,500 times per year on each press, which is about 90 to 95 make-readies per day. The average run length, and if you work the maths back, allow some bank holidays for me, but 2,750 sheets is our average run length. It's rare we run more than 10,000, but a lot of jobs are a lot lower. Finishing, just to set the scene of what we've got, one guillotine that copes with that. We're getting through about 25 tonne of paper a day. We don't cut any paper before it goes into the machine. Everything is bought the size we need it, and it's trimmed perfectly so it can go straight in. 4 folders, 2 stitch lines, and a fair bit using Amit's, a fair bit of value-added work, foil blocking, laminating, creasing, all the bits you'd expect that support it. The SP Smile is a relatively new brand. Part of it, it's now our digital division, renamed because we've won a contract producing photo gifts, photo books, canvases, that sort of thing. So we've taken the opportunity to put all of our digital business into one operation, and that moved very, very recently. That part of the business turns over $7 million, employs 30 full-time people, 19,000 square foot of premises, 4 digital presses, 4 A3 cut sheet. I know some people in this room will have Indigo 10,000, 12,000s. I hope you have a page size of A2, because if you don't, it doesn't make financial sense. I don't understand it. Why would you buy a B2 digital machine that has such a small uptime and there's no digital equipment out there to finish it? A3 is the only way forward, unless, and I did go to one print company yesterday, their finished page size was bigger than A3 and they needed it, and that's a fair justification. Apart from that, I don't understand it. The maths don't work. We have 2 roll-fed large format machines. We do a lot of our canvas printing on those. And all of our digital work, well, about 50% is dispatched same day, but all of it is dispatched within 48 hours. This business was set up in September. We went live, and during the Christmas period, which is our busiest period, some days we're dispatching over 8,000 individual orders with that amount of kit. Finishing, photo books, we all know what's involved. There's case making, there's PUR binding beforehand, there's casing in, canvases, we're stretching, we're pinning, so it's a lot of orders. An order can be 1 photo book, 1 canvas, literally 1 canvas, 1 photo book, as well as calendars and all the sort of photo gifts. And also in the digital market, it's commercial, it's variable data, it's leaflets, it's short-run booklets, it's everything you guys already do out there. A lot of it, certainly in the UK and Europe, has replaced the B3 litho market. There is no longer a B3 litho market in the UK and Europe. It's digital or it's litho. So, where did it all begin? Birmingham, of all places. How many have been to IPEX when it was good? Yes, you know what I mean. So IPEX now, don't bother. Don't waste your money. In 2006, it was still good. It was it wasn't as big as Drupa, never was, but it was still somewhere you had to be. The UK industry in particular then was going through a tough time. Things were just starting to tighten up, and myself and my operations director at the time, a guy called Anthony Thirlby, we were driving back and not overly inspired, if I'm honest. So we sat in the car and think, things are changing, we've got to tighten up, we've got to create margins, they're reducing. This is 2006. I know you guys are suffering it now, and I don't know how long it's been for, but this is 11 years ago. It took us 5 years to get the results we wanted, to anywhere close to what we wanted. And there were 3 major factors in doing that took far longer than we ever expected. The mindset was the hugest thing, and that's the biggest challenge you guys have got here. Speaking to people, everybody I've spoke to, why have you got 4 people on a press? Because we need them. You don't. Because the printers say we need 4 people. You don't need them. The mindset has to change, not only from the business owners, not from you, just you people here, from those people on the presses themselves, in pre-press, in finishing. You've got to change. It will take time. It took us a long time. We never had 4 people on a press, never ever more than 2, but it will take time. JDF workflow. How many people run a JDF workflow? None? SIP 3? Okay, 1. 2? Okay, 3, 4. Okay, we've got a few. The JDF workflow is essential. We're taking PDFs and we're putting them in, and we're all doing that. That's standard in India, in the UK, in Europe, worldwide. But you've got to investigate. I'm not here to preach about a JDF workflow and sell it. That's the last thing I'm here to do. We've moved on. We're SIP 3, we're SIP 4. But you absolutely have to have a look at a JDF workflow. You have to make it work. A JDF workflow will make your pre-press department talk to your presses, and potentially your finishing department as well. And if you get it right, it'll give you all the data back you need, which is great as long as you do something with it. You must look at a JDF workflow. And as I said, the culture, as well as the mindset change, it's actually a culture change as well, to convince people that these machines can do what the manufacturers tell us they will do. And Komori, Mr. Hirofumi earlier, he stole my thunder a little bit, because some of the stuff he talked about, he's absolutely right. We're living proof about what he's talking about, that you change people's minds, you get them into this mindset, this frame of mind, you really can achieve what I'm talking about. So that drive back from Birmingham, back to that, it was a rainy day, I remember it well, which is not unusual in the UK. About an hour and a half, and by the time we were stepping out of the car, we come up with this. Not very inspirational, really. Project 2.5K. Right, what's Project 2.5K? It was a target, it was a focus, it was a type of work. It was the perfect run length that we'd worked out in our minds, and later on I'll show you a slide of where that came from and how close we got to it. What it meant was for every set of plates we put on the press, we wanted to print 2,500 sheets. Now, I don't mean exactly every job, but I mean on average 2,500 sheets for every set of plates we had. Quite a challenge. We'll explore the reasons why 2,500 as we go through. Okay, so preparation. The market. We needed to understand the market. We really needed to understand whether there was enough work of that quantity. Now, bearing in mind 2,500 sheets, if it's an A4 leaflet, could be 20,000 copies. It could also be 2,500 copies of a 200-page catalogue. We had to speak to our clients to make sure that the way we needed to work, they could work. Somebody asked me earlier about artwork files. A lady who's a very good designer from the work I've seen from her, and she said to me, Paul, is there a standard format of how you name your art, or you need your artwork files named? And my first response was no, and then I stopped myself and said, because we do it and we've done it so long, yes, there is. We need the files to come into us in a certain way before they go into the manufacturing process. Now, ideally, that's from the clients. But if it's not, take that process out and do it separately. And again, we'll explore that later. We had to research pricing. Amit's quite right. It'd be lovely, wouldn't it, if we could all name our own price. There's only so much work like that. We're not in that market. I'd like to be, but actually, I love what I do. I love print. We've all got a responsibility to keep print alive. It's fighting against digital. It's fighting against email campaigns, TV, Facebook, all of these things. If we don't fight to keep it alive, if we don't make it more efficient, if we don't respond to the fact that clients want a cheaper print job, it will die. And I don't know about you lot, but I have a wife with very expensive tastes. I have children to keep, and I have family and parents that I want to keep in good health. I don't want to survive. I want to make money out of it. I love what I do. We're good at what we do. The quality of the work I've seen at every printer I've been to, no matter how old the press is, it's superb that I've seen in India. I'm shocked on 20-year-old machines of what you guys produce. There's different ways of getting paid well for it, and this is what we're talking about. The sales opportunities have to be there, and you've got to explore that with your clients. Have you got enough, and this is a model. I'm not saying, guys, this is the only way to go. I'm sharing our experience and what we did. So whichever way you decide to go, you have to explore with your current clients or future clients that it's right for the model you're going to go for. We reviewed our equipment. This was 2006. So we'd always invested quite heavily. We reviewed our equipment from our pre-press equipment, and we had just put in a new CTP device at that point, 62 plates per hour, as I spoke about, one we still have pretty much now. We had to make sure the equipment we had was up to what we were trying to achieve, and in most cases it was. Our workforce, our manning, absolutely crucial bit. We started speaking to everybody really early. I can remember literally the day after we got back, we called the management team together and said, this is what we're going to do. Suddenly I was an alien. They were looking at me as if I was this really weird guy that, they'd known for many years but didn't understand what I was talking about. We had to get our management team along with us, and they had to get, the printers, the pre-press, the finishers guys along as well. And materials, I've talked about it already. You can't do any of this unless your material preparation, the quality of your materials is absolute. We reviewed everything. We reviewed our inks, we reviewed our blankets, our chemistry, our paper, and this took time, a lot of time. What we had to do, and this is something you've really got to work on, we had to take out the maybes. When we get into the manufacturing process, we've got to know that when we get a file from a customer, that the naming convention is right, that it will go straight into our workflow, our JDF workflow, which we'll come back to. When we get it onto press, we need to know that the paper we put in the feeder will run. It may stop very occasionally, but generally it will run at 18,000 an hour. We have to put our plates on the press, know the colour's right. We had to take away any part of the process that we couldn't guarantee. So what did our analysis tell us back in 2006? Our average run length at the time was 9,000 sheets. So still quite low, actually. We were surprised it was that low. The work we did with our clients and some cost models we came up with, we measured the pricing, we targeted the pricing, we researched the pricing and said, this 200-page A4 catalogue we're talking about, if we could do it for that price, how much more work would we win? And we were quite astounded with customers' response. It's a bit like Amit said, no matter what you do it well and focus it on what you're good at. And that was quite overwhelming, the response from the clients. Shame it took us 5 years, but we'll come back to that. As I say, the JDF workflow, I've said it, I can't say it enough, guys, you need to explore it. There's Kodak, there's Agfa, there's all these people out there. It's done, it's tried, it's tested. SIP3 has become SIP4. There's another level now. And JDF has become ex-JDF. You are quite a way behind for the number of hands that went up when I asked. You need to explore it. The equipment we had, as I said earlier, was already suitable. That was the good news. So not huge capital investment at the time, which was a relief for me as a business owner, I have to say. We just had to change the way we used it. So, our workforce, very skilled and efficient. From what we'd asked them to do, they'd always done it. But we had to change their mindset, as I've said a number of times. We had to convince them that what we were talking about was achievable. We weren't convinced ourselves at the time, I had to say. We had to educate our customer service teams that this was going to change, and they in turn had to educate the customers to give us the files the way we wanted them. Production had to plan differently. And like I said earlier, we had to trust our investments that they could produce what we needed it to produce. And we had to take out these maybes. We did this by setting up a JDF workflow. That was, I have to say, quite easy to do. A bit of investment, not huge. 12 months' time, get your pre-press guys on it. It's not difficult. And we set some standard operating procedures. We'd always had people, good working practices, but not actually documented standing operating procedures to try and get everybody working to exactly the same method and the same standards. I don't like this graphic, but it does sum it up. M plus M plus M plus M plus 0M equals OEM. So know your market, okay? And from what I've seen, a lot of you guys definitely do that already. Employ the best people, and if they're not the best already, train them. I was speaking to somebody earlier, and I forget who it was, but they're saying that there is a lack of schooling for print. Well, do it yourselves, guy. You have to do it. There must be one of your best printers who's capable of taking him aside, get him to train people, but you have to set the bar of what you want and what you expect. The machines, you've got to, and Komori said it themselves, you've got to maintain them. You can't do any of this unless you maintain them. And what was said earlier by Komori is absolutely, we're living proof that it's true. You maintain those machines, preventative maintenance, you'll get far fewer breakdowns, better quality and more output. No question about it. It's essential. And as I say, take away the doubts, take away any part of the process that could stop the process progressing quickly. And then you can get your optimum efficient manufacturing. So, a bit more, some of these things I've covered. We had to put some disciplines in, so we would only take PDFs from a client. Now, what we did was set up a side department to make sure those PDFs were absolutely right. It was a transition period, but that was done before it came into the manufacturing process. We created imposition catalogues, so the naming convention on the PDFs, we dropped it in a folder, it knew it was A4, it knew it was a 32 page, and therefore it was going to go to imposition B, and the pages automatically get distributed, and the imposition's done automatically on the fly. We automated the PDF approval process. We also said to clients, you can actually only have PDFs. Some still wanted wet proofs. We took that out of the process again and did it as a side process. They were automatically approved. As soon as they're approved, they went straight into the plate making process. And then we stopped checking plates. Again, I was with another printer yesterday who checked every single plate coming out of the machine, only about 70 or 80 a day. And I said, how often do you find a problem with the plates? Never. Why are you checking them? Why? I don't understand. Well, just in case. You have to trust your equipment. You have to take that away. And everywhere I've been keeps plates for a reprint. And I said to another one, how often do you use these plates? How often does your work reprint? I have no idea. Why keep them? Or at least do your analysis. And if it justifies keeping them, then yes, keep them. For us, we have automatic plate loading. We have one little kink, not quite right with the plate, or it's not been gummed up properly or stored properly. It takes out all of the benefit of keeping those plates in the first place. So we don't bother keeping any plates. Just in rupees, I have 250 rupees for a plate. Is that about right? For a metal plate, yeah? Okay. So for 4 plates for 4 colour job, 1,000 rupees. The risk of what time you may lose on a press and the hourly rate of the press and potentially losing quality, in my view, it's not worth it. Take out the maybes that maybe the plates will be okay. Make sure they're okay by remaking them. As long as you archive the files, no problem. The press process. There's more variables. The pre-press was quite straightforward. Press process, we had to get the papers right. I've talked about that. You absolutely need good quality stocks. The way the paper is delivered to the press, we take it off a truck and it goes straight into a machine, unwrapped, bulk packed, ready to go. Admittedly, on some expensive Federagoni type papers, that's a bit different, but we never ever trim first. We work our impositions and we gang work to make sure we only run 2 or 3 sheet sizes. Our inks, our coatings, our chemistry, everything was tested over probably about a 12-month period, testing it, running in the machines quicker, where were they getting some ink mist, some ink fly, where it was catching up at higher speeds, change the chemistry. And now we're down to I'm pretty much sure we're alcohol-free as well. Blankets, goes without saying, make sure you've got the right blankets. Strict maintenance, we've already talked about the preventative maintenance. It's absolutely, do it. Absolutely, every day. There's things you need to do daily, there's things you need to do weekly, there's things you need to do to get the manufacturer's engineers in. You must have a strict maintenance process. The JDF workflow, pre-press talking to the press, essential. It takes away all of your time to get colour right. It's preset. It doesn't have to be the one standard. We have profiles set up for certain customers. Fashion brands who want, the flesh tone's a bit different. Magenta's up a bit, yellow down a bit. Save that profile in your pre-press. Send it to the press when it's ready. It's there. And in all of this, you've got to collect the data. I was quite impressed. Most people would record in the time they started to make ready and by the time they finish a job. What you do with that data is really, really important. If you can automate the level of data and analyze it, it's essential. How do you know you succeed and you're moving forward unless you analyze that data? The production planners have a big part to play. We used to do a job in B1, 720, 1020, then one in 640, 900, then one in 600, 800, then we go back to B1. Well, if you get all these efficiencies right and you do everything quicker, you put them together. Right now, when our plates come out, our baller, our assistant, he writes the paperweight on every set of plates, and we have trolleys. I wish I'd taken a picture. Somebody has got one, but I haven't put it in the presentation. And it says the paperweights, and quite often I walk along it will say 130, 130, 130, 300, 130. And I'm thinking, why is that? And they'll come along and they'll move it, and they'll put it to the end. Why change paper caliber when you don't need to. Batch, and that's production's job to batch and make the whole process easier. So we did it for size, for weights, for colors, everything. And also, we know with our printers, I know who my best printers are. If you analyze your data, you will. We know that in the UK, we don't have customer service people on nights. So if there is a slightly longer run work, put it on the night shift, just in case there's a question. You've got nobody to answer it on the night shift, so do less make-readies on the night shift than you do during the day. All of these are fundamental, small things that add to the efficiency. The press minders, they've got to pass their own work. We used to pass the position on the sheet so that the bindery knew that they could fold it properly. Well, we do a 32-page A5 or 16-page A4 or whatever it may be, day in, day out. So have one standard and make sure the printer knows he's got to put it right. Make sure it's in the right position on the plates. They pass their own work for colour, for position on the sheet, for overall quality. Give them the responsibility to do it. And like I said, if they wanted to change the order in which production had planned it, change it. If it makes it more efficient and you know better, we're quite happy for you to change it. And one thing in all this that's really important when you're going through this, there were mistakes. We did have what we call spoilages and reprints. They're painful. None of us like it. We don't make enough margin as it is. But if you really want to progress, you've got to let these guys make these mistakes and educate them once they've made them to make sure they don't happen again. Finishing's tough. I think it's a pipeline, isn't it? Our industry, our manufacturing, we have pre-press, nice and measurable. We have the press, nice and measurable. And then it gets to finishing and it can go all sorts of directions. It could be just folded, it could be trimmed, it could be bound, it could be laminated, embossed. So bindery is actually the toughest thing for us. But in the UK, we struggle with finishing staff. They're very difficult to train, they're very difficult to attract, and I've heard similar stories from you guys. Our folder operators can earn the same working in a car factory. So what do they want to do? They want the pressure of print, because let's be honest, we've got to work hard to make some money, or do they stand in a car factory going like this all day? So for us, the bindery is important, but it's an area that if I can reduce the amount of work we have in our bindery, I would. Different for you guys, labour costs are very different. Our bindery finishing guys, they're still earning $35,000 US a year, so it's still a lot of money. We could do something, so we batch the work like we did in the press room. So we try to do 16-page A4s, fold them at the time, and on the stitch line size batch, all that sort of thing. We come up with just 2 or 3 folding schemes per folder, so they, again, weren't changing so often. And the main thing we did is we trained our staff to specialise on one bit of kit rather than every bit of kit. Finishing, you tend to be able to run the stitcher and the binder and the laminator. We got rid of that and just said, your job is a folder operator, your job is a stitching operator, your job is a guillotine operator. The press guys, we don't ask them to run 5 or 6 different machines, do we? We ask them to run one. We did the same with our finishing people. So what do we now do? As I said, we're now 11 years on. Our average make-ready time is just under 3 minutes. Okay? That's not occasionally. That's an average that we do day in, day out, every day, without fail. There is no compromise on quality. Our running speed on every stock we produce, now, to be honest, we rarely produce anything above 450 gram, but it's 18,000 an hour, and we don't build up to that. As soon as that press is running, we've made ready, the plates are on, it's 18,000, it's straight up. That equates on the floor to about 15,000 sheets per hour, and that's consistent and it has been for some time. Our uptime, and this is a really important one again, our colleague from Komori alluded to it earlier, is the uptime. We can do all of this, but if we're only running for 5 hours out of 24, then it's pointless. 84% of our time, we are selling that press time to our customers. It could be in a make-ready, or it could be in running sheets, but 84%, 20 hours a day out of 24 is sold to our customers. Sorry, just go back one. And as I say, over 62 million impressions per year, and that's actually come down as our run lengths have reduced, that's come down. So we're now averaging 2,750 sheets. So my project 2.5K, I never reached. I got to 2.74. So far, I've got to 2.75K. We've consistently achieved this since 2011. The presses I have, one is 3 years old, one is 4 years old. They have 200 and 280 million impressions on them. So you can tell at 62 million, those number of impressions we're doing have actually come down. We also bought a 2-color because we were running some black and white work on the machines. And again, we just wanted to get that off there to take the pressure off a little bit. The new technology, I went to Drupa, and one of the big press manufacturers grabbed me because they know we manufacture well, and said, "You must see the new press. Great demonstration." And I said, "How long will it save me?" 10 seconds. So you want me to invest £2 million on a new press to save me 10 seconds? No. No. I can lose 10 seconds if I don't get my materials on, if the pallet's broken. It's not worth it. There's no point me investing more money for 10 seconds. The question now, and probably one Kamori don't like, is, in my view, there's no need to invest new now. We did. Our press is a few years old now. There's no longer a need to invest in new kit. This kit is out there in Europe, not in India, although I have seen some of it, that you can now invest in used kit at far less impressions than we do. That it's ready, it's JDF compliant, it's ready to go, it's SIP4 compliant, it has all of the automation that we have. Now, to give you an idea of the level of automation, it's putting the 4 or 5 plates, we have a 4-color and a 5-color, on simultaneously. It's washing the blankets at the same time, and it's reading there's a spectrophotometer built into the machine. All of this is readily available now on the used market. It's all there. So you do need these tools, but you don't need 4 people. You don't need 3 people, you don't need 2 people. They help, but they've got to be used correctly. The mindset has to change. Nobody I've spoken to since I've been here is telling me their plans to improve their efficiency and decrease the number of people on a machine. Nobody has told me they've got a plan to do it. The mindset in this room, the people, the business owners, not to survive, but to thrive in an industry that has a great history and a great future, we have to change our mindset, and we have to implement these changes. This journey never ends. Although some of these figures I've given you we've done consistently for many years, it doesn't mean we've been doing nothing in the meantime. We always strive to improve. Now our focus is on getting the same efficiency out of those machines as they're getting older. To give you an idea, our machine that's 4 years old, my 2017 figures compared to 2016, I lost just under 1% efficiency of a machine that's 12 months older, a year older. I'll accept that, that's fine. It is getting older, it is going to need a bit more maintenance, but 1%, that's great. I'm fine with that. So we focus on keeping it there. And we now look at our return on investment. We won't put anything in unless we get an 18-month return on a bit of kit. And that's, in some cases, easy. In most cases, that's quite tough. What we have just done is we've installed a second CTP line. 6-year-old machine, adding to I've actually got 9 on there. The old machine is actually 11 years old, I've just realised. The new machine, 38 plates per hour. The old machine, 62 plates. So we can now produce 100 plates per hour. Now, the reason we put it in, I've mentioned we moved our digital department, our digital division, away to a different building, and that created just some customer service people in digital that moved. It gives us 1,000 square feet. What am I going to do with that space? I could put stock there, which will take my cash up, and I've got a fund, or I can look at my best return. Space in Mumbai in particular is a premium. The price of space in Mumbai, I was absolutely shocked how expensive it is, how expensive property is, whether it be commercial or residential. Obviously, there is new Mumbai, which is more economical, but space is absolutely a premium. It's a commodity that we have to use. So we look always at the profit or the value added that we can generate, and that's gross margin. We use the term value added per square foot of space. It's one of our big indicators that drives efficiency. We always do a very in-depth analysis, and we put it around various people in the company. Any ideas? We've got 1,000 foot of space. What are we going to do with it? What is going to make us money? The compelling answer was the second CTP line in this occasion, and one of those was because the old machine was 11 years old, and bearing in mind we had one CTP machine keeping 2 presses with that number of make-readies going. We were vulnerable. You know, that machine went down, the whole factory stops. We can't make plates, we can't print. If we can't print, we can't finish. Our business per day is £25,000. I can't do the maths quickly in rupees, but there's about 33,000 US dollars to run. That's our overheads per day. My CTP machine goes down, I have no revenue. So there were 2 compelling arguments. One was as a backup to our existing machine that was getting old, and the other was, I will show you. Now, I know it's late, and I know the font size is quite small on it. Please, guys, bear with me. There's a bit of maths in this. Okay, so 1 CTP device, 62 plates per hour. We have 3 people in pre-press. We have 1 supervisor who works with the customer service team in making sure the files are all correct, and then we have 2 guys on a double-day shift. There's a bit of maths here. So our daily capacity, 15 hours a day, 62 plates an hour, 80% uptime utilization, gives us 744 plates per hour that we can produce. Bearing in mind we're 3,500 a week, so we're running about 700. We've got pretty close. Do the maths on that, break it down. We'll make it all 4-color to make it easy. Each press needs 93 sets of plates per day to make sure I'm utilizing my CTP well, which I've been doing up to now. Our measures and my data tells me I make ready in 3 minutes and I net 15,000. I've got days, months, weeks, years of data that tells me that. So if I'm using that number of plates, and I know it's, for the sake of it, 3 minutes to make ready, what this is trying to show me is how many hours I've got left to print sheets. And what this is saying, our 2017 model, is that we've got 921 minutes. By the time we make ready 93 times at 3 minutes each, so 921 minutes left to print 93 sets of plates. Quick bit of maths, because it's late and you're tired, and I've done it. It's 10 minutes per job. We run at 15,000 an hour. It's 1/6 of an hour. 15,000 divided by 6 is 2,500. It's project 2.5K. That's where it came from. In utilizing our CTP device with 3 people in that area. What that produces, because the maths dictate and data tells me, on average, 232,000 sheets every day we produce that go into that bindery and go in all different directions. My bindery is my headache, I'll be honest. It's the one that I wouldn't say I lose sleep over, but one I can't find a perfect solution for. So, after here, we put the second CTP device in. This is my 2018 model. Same maths, apart from, rather than now being able to produce 744 a day, I can now do 1,200, okay? I want to use 1,200 plates a day. I want to use all those plates. I can sell those plates. When I get them onto press, if I'm making ready or I'm printing, I'm getting paid the same price per hour, okay? That's the way the market is. Same for make ready, hourly, as it is for running. But if I'm running less sheets because I'm spending more time making ready, I'm putting less impressions on my press. My press will last longer. I can depreciate it at a slower rate. The big benefit for me is I get less sheets in my bindery where I have headaches. It's where my backlog is. So it actually helps me solve that issue. Those 45,000 sheets less I'm putting through the bindery per day, again, my data tells me this, on average for every 1,000 sheets, and excuse me, this is in sterling rather than rupees or dollars, I get £30 per 1,000. That includes the cutting, the folding, the binding, whatever. That's an average price. So by producing 45,000 sheets left, I'm losing £1,350 per day in revenue. But I'm making 456 plates more with the same number of people. These 3 guys in pre-press, we've researched, we've done it. Customer service is a different argument, and we'll come back to that. But my pre-press guys can handle it. Because of our workflow, because of JDF, because of the way the files come in, we can produce 456 plates a day more now that I have a second CTP device with no additional labor cost in my pre-press. And that's my revenue I get for a plate. So although I'm losing £1,350 from my finishing department, I'm gaining £2,508 per day for my plates. That's my net daily revenue increase. potential. I'm not there. We're nowhere near there. So, project 1.25K has just been born. And we are now striving to halve it. That's what the sats tell me. That's what my new CTP device has told me. And we've got to realise our market, we've all sat here, quantities are reducing. This is actually responding, I'd like to say strategically, but a little bit coincidentally, that people want less copies. You know, the guy from Canon earlier, you know, digital and litho will coexist. Somebody else asked me, what is your cutoff point between litho and digital? On a multi-page book, it's about 275 on a standard paper. Expensive papers, obviously it goes up more to higher levels for digital. But litho and digital have to sit next door to each other. They have to. But 1.25K is what the market actually will need. It wants lower quantities. And it's not a defined number. Please don't let me try and convince you that every job we do is 2.5K at the moment. It's not. But now we're driving.